Yeah, and I have done this back in my practice management days where I have discovered that somebody that's really sitting over here with not a full plate of work, um, while my denial manager is struggling to keep up, I've broken it off to where I'm like, you know what? Let's let Terry go do all the EOB pulling for you. Let it be sitting there for you, or let Terry look at the accounts and say, oh, it looks like this set of credit balances are all copay overpayments, whereas these credit balances look like we're over adjustments. You know, get that part of the work split out. And it really made Jamie do her part, the harder part, the more experience needed part, much faster. So, yeah, it's very easy for me to recall my days of having to keep my team very streamlined.
Yeah, yeah. And you are going to have situations where something goes straight from research to response, and the decision making is almost not needed as a separate step because it's obvious what we're going to do each time. And those are the situations actually where automation can come into play, where you can automatically say, if I see this, do this, and I don't even have to think about it anymore. So I can further reduce workload on the most experienced folks and execute the tasks much quicker. So let's talk a little bit about individual roles and responsibilities. So I'll start with research. So the research side, which is really what we'll call the junior AR representative, it could also be done by anyone on the team that has extra bandwidth. They're doing EOB retrieval. They're classifying denials if that's not already done in the software. If need to make a phone call to get clarification, they do that. They do eligibility verification if it was a denial related to that. They review an authorization if the denial was related to that, and they do documentation review if documentation was requested, which needs to be looked at or at least queued up. So then the senior AR rep, the decider role. So Francis, what is the ideal sort of day in the life of look like for the senior AR rep doing deciding only?
The deciding only is, well, do we appeal this? As we're saying, do we correct the claim, or is it something that was as simple as you failed to put the corrected claim identifier on the claim? Do you need to pull documentation? What are you pulling? Are you going to the medical notes? Are you having to go log into the hospital portal and pull it from the hospital surgery notes? Or do we need to write it off? This is something that needs to come off the books. Those decisions, it depends on the organization as to how comfortable they are with the senior level versus mid-level person deciding this for someone. I know, if you're an RCM vendor, some things you have to get approval. So your decision step is, do I need to get approval from the client, or do I have the authority to make those decisions?
Yeah, yeah. And then finally on the response, so the AR rep, yes, technically they could submit the corrected claim or resubmit an existing claim or submit documentation. Those are all fine. And that might still be, you might have the junior person the same person sit on both research and response side, if that fits your organization. But if you have the ability to distribute work to other team members, like the biller, like the coder, like the poster, to go and do a specific action, that handoff step between it, so that the decider can just quickly move on. So we're talking of going from, working 20, 25 claims a day to working 100 claims a day as a decider, and you've kind of gotten rid of all the noise. So all the legwork to figure out what to do and all the legwork to actually get the work done, that's done. Now you're just focused on the deciding role. And this process also opens up the door for automation. So, for Lockbox, what we do is we do a lot of the prep work automatically, aggregate everything together, suggest what the next best action is, and then let the decider work through batches of claims at a very rapid pace, indicate what their decision is and a couple notes to go along with it. And then automation picks up the rest and actually goes and does the response with some human oversight to make sure that there's quality assurance in the process. But what we can do is we can triple or quadruple the throughput of an individual AR rep who just turns into a decider and no longer a doer. But the same framework applies for any organization that wants to increase their throughput using lockbox or not. Doing this in a more assembly line approach, you can get a lot more results out of it, and you can get a lot better cross training out of it. And we think it's the right approach that revenue cycle directors should be taking a closer look at in their operation. Any final thoughts,
Yeah, and to
Francis?
add to that,
Yeah.
sure. I know I always talk about RCM directors and the decision makers tend to be very protective and controlling. They want it to come through them first before we decide, do we write this off? Do we really bill the patient for this? What they identify those one at a time. I am a strong believer in batch work. So, if you can identify, if that person that says everything comes to me first could actually stop and say, but you know what, every day my decision falls into one of these 10 buckets. It's nice if then she no longer for four of them, they're very junior task safe without needing to go through her. And then these other two, I will handle this way, just to be able to get it to the point of where I am comfortable letting go of that decision phase because there is now a trend, there is now a pattern that everybody agrees on and is very clear on who can do the action without that decision phase.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, this has been great, Francis. Thanks once again. I hope for revenue cycle directors and managers listening that there's some takeaways here that you might be able to implement, within your team as well. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.